Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to theCUBE's live coverage of Qlik Connect 2026 here in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Rebecca Knight. I'm alongside Rob Strechay, the one and only Rob Strechay.
Well, yes, that is very true. If you see another Rob Strechay walking around, it's an imposter.
Exactly.
Sure.
Well, we're going to be talking.
As nice dressed as you.
That's for sure.
Indeed.
I do try.
I would like to welcome our next guest. He is Matthew Hayes, GM Data Business Unit at Qlik. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Matthew.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So in your role, I'm sure you talk to a lot of senior leaders across lots of organizations who are struggling and facing a lot of challenges in terms of how they're deploying AI. Talk a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of commonalities with the successes they're having and where they're still stalling.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of it is exploration. I've met with customers all day today, and they've shared a common theme, which is that their leadership is pushing AI, and they're trying to figure out how to move as fast as their leaders want them to move, but also make sure that they're applying it to the right use cases, that they're doing it in a way that actually helps the business, as opposed to just moving fast. So I think there's a lot of companies that are looking for some guidance. There's a lot of companies that feel that they're partially there from either a data integration standpoint or an analytics standpoint, and they just need to figure out how to make that next step.
I think one of the things, and it's been a theme that's been going on, is that AI can't survive poor quality data. What are you seeing from organizations as they want to invest in a better data platform and be able to bring it all together? What are you seeing as kind of the foundation for trusted data?
Yeah, so with trusted data, I think the data quality is absolutely key. It feels that every year we're talking about the same themes, just at another level. So quality of data is always important. But now that you've introduced an agentic framework, you're introducing capabilities where the agents are making decisions based on the data. Nobody wants to be a news story. Nobody wants to have a situation where the agent does something absolutely crazy, and it's because it's a data issue. And this is actually going to slow things down a little bit for some organizations, because they need to take a step back and say, is our data really AI ready? And when you ask that question, it's a complicated answer. Are we getting the data from all the sources? Is it arriving on time? What are the gaps in the data? What are the quality issues? That's a piece of it too. Just what is wrong with it? Is it just blank fields, or is there problems with the data that need to be remediated before we can actually put it to work in an agentic scenario?
So that's why it sounds as though it's becoming a real board level issue, a real level at the C-suite. And you said that it's causing a lot of organizations to slow down. Is that a good thing?
I mean, I think for most companies it is a good thing to take a step back and say, do we have the right architecture in place? Do we have the right solutions in place? Like, this is what we're doing at Qlik. We're making sure that we're looking at it saying we've built for this moment. Like, everything that we've done over the past 10, 15 years has iterated us to this moment. And we need to build that trusted layer for the customers. I think we've heard that data is the new oil, right? Like, the first time I heard that was like 10 years ago. Well, now it's not just about mining value out of that data, but the data has become a competitive advantage for the business. And this is where the boards are getting involved. They're looking at it saying, oh, wait a minute, the data is not just important as far as how we run our business, it's actually important into how we compete in the market, because we know our competitors are doing this too. So that's why I think you get a lot of that velocity and push from the board, because we know our competitors are doing it, we need to be doing it too. So what are we doing?
So building on that, how should CIOs and CDOs and such really embrace and go down the path and operationalize governance then?
Yeah, so I think a big piece of this is taking ownership of your own data. Mike talked about this morning in the keynote. There's a lot of vendors that are creating vendor lock-in around your data. There's a lot of decisions that are being made that are not customer-centric as far as getting the most value from your data. We've taken the completely opposite approach to that. We want to be customer-centric. Your data is your data, and we will help you get it no matter what you have to do from where it is to where it needs to be. So the freedom of data is really important here, because you just can't have contractual obligations or vendor lock-in issues restricting what you're going to get out of the value of that data.
Well, talk a little bit about that. You said that all these things are the same things, just a little bit of a different angle or a different level. But talk a little bit about what a company or organization would be grappling with if they did this vendor lock-in and then their data is not their data.
Well, I mean, first of all, I want to just push back and say that your data is your data just because it's a knee-jerk reaction.
Just because someone says it's not.
Because it's how every conversation starts with a customer. But you look at a lot of these enterprise vendors out there are recognizing that they can having your data in their environment, having your data in their applications is valuable. It can help them shift and shape what you're doing with that data and what technologies you choose. So now you've got these companies that are building stacks around data, AI, and analytics, and they want you to go that route. And you don't want your data to be a hostage. You don't want to be making decisions in your architecture that aren't good for the business. If you choose a data platform or an AI solution, you don't want to be making that decision because, well, it's the easiest because we already have this vendor, or it's the easiest because they're difficult to deal with and they already have our data. You need to be doing it. You need to be making these decisions autonomously based on what you want to do with the data.
So, one of the things that keeps coming up, we were just in Europe for a show a couple weeks ago, and regulation is starting to creep in everywhere. And it's not just about sovereignty and AI regulations, but it's like industry-specific stuff and even greater. And more companies are saying, hey, I want to get ready for that. One of the things that you've got to kind of look at and scrutinize, and it seems like AI really, it's become more important, and love your take on this, is really Lineage is one of those things that when you start to look at where's the data coming from, who's processed it, who can touch it, and all of these different things, and to the whole medallion strategy and things of that nature, how does Lineage and the medallion strategy, how does that all play in to helping people get ahead of kind of the regulation? I feel like there's this tidal wave of regulation that we're going to have over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I think sovereignty drives a lot of it, right? So the data sovereignty laws that are going into place across the world, we have to pay attention to. We have to honor that and respect that, and we understand that it's something our customers value. But when it comes to what you're doing with that data, not all data is equal. Like some of it is mission critical enterprise data. Some of it might be IoT or log stream data that needs to be ingested quickly. So I think what we're going to anticipate is that workloads are going to vary. Controls and governance around data is going to vary. And this is where Qlik's capabilities can handle that. So we introduced streaming for Open Lakehouse.
Yep.
I've had 2 customers this morning thank us for that, because they're ahead of the curve in that regard. They're bringing highly valuable, high velocity IoT data into their Open Lakehouse. And both of them are currently loading it into an enterprise data warehouse that's a little bit more expensive than they'd like it to be. So the Lakehouse strategy is really important. So we're going to see that governance is going to vary data to data, customer to customer, and I do think the sovereignty issue is going to be prevalent. I mean, I'm even hearing about customers overseas that are training LLM models based on their own culture, based on how their business operates. They don't want to use an Anthropic LLM.
Right.
They want to train an LLM based on how they work and how they interact with customers and vendors.
So say more about that. I mean, when you say trained on their culture, is this their ethos, their mission, their values, in addition to their workflows and how different divisions work together?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is their workflows. Some of it is just aspects of their culture, whether it be documented through HR initiatives. What are our core values? Things like that. It even goes down into communications. How do we communicate with our customers? Like, what language do we use? How do we work with our vendors? Do we treat our vendors as vendors, or do we treat them as partners? So I think those are some really interesting and nuanced aspects of how this AI world is evolving.
How are these regulatory expectations shaping the way companies approach innovation?
Well, I mean, I think it slows them down. We talked about that earlier. I think it causes everybody a little bit of pause to say, okay, we know what we want to do. We know we want to move fast, but are we doing it right? Are we compliant with laws? Are we compliant with legal? I had breakfast with a customer this morning that said some of their challenges are legal slows them down because legal hasn't vetted this out completely to figure out what they can and can't do, especially when it comes to customer data. When it comes to coding, like we're a software company and we code, but our customers code, and they use things like Claude Code and Copilot to generate code, and that raises questions about, the legalities of what's their IP and what can they trademark and copyright and things like that. So it's interesting, but I do think the regulations are going to they're going to need to get more advanced, but they can't get in the way of progress and innovation. At least in an ethical way. So
one of the biggest failures, and it's like you said, I feel like we keep going around on this wheel a lot, is one of the biggest failures is really quality of data. And one of the things is being, to your point about training your own models, having SLMs, small language models or specific language models used as part of your agentic workflow. It helps to overcome that because you're kind of controlling the data from source to output. Are you seeing that people are really looking to govern the data across the entire life cycle, and that's one of the places that Qlik is really double-clicking on?
Yeah, yeah. I think for us, a lot of it manifests in the data product. So the data product, which you saw us launch today, we turned that on earlier this year. We have over 3,000 data products that customers have enabled. But when you back up from a data product, when you look at it from the consumer standpoint, that data product if you think about it, it's a perishable good. It's something that you would buy at a grocery store, that it's only good for so long. You need it right now, and it needs to do what it's supposed to do. But behind that, there's the data quality, there's the governance, there's the data stewardship, there's the schema, or semantic
layer, yeah.
Information. That there's just so much behind the data product, and I do think governance is a big part of that. Who can use it, who can access it, who can see it, when they can access it. So when you look at the scope of a data product, there's a lot of these components that back up into this that that ultimately serve the business to make sure that, yes, that data product that you just bought off the shelf that you're using in this use case is good and ready to go, and you're allowed to use it, and this is the proper use case for it.
So what best practices are emerging in terms of when you are looking out across the spectrum of AI projects that deliver ROI? What do they get right consistently about the data that the others aren't?
Well, I do think we're in a period of experimentation. I mean, that's big. I kind of think, do you remember when the iPhone came out?
Sure.
And the apps where Heineken had that app where you could pour a beer with the iPhone, or you could do the lighter, so when you go to a concert, you could just hold up the lighter. Like that's kind of where I think we are with these AI and agentic use cases around business. I think everybody wants to do something, everybody wants to move quickly, but you really have to boil down the use cases and say, where are we right now? What are the use cases that are the best fit? One of the things that comes up all the time is, are these software companies going to get eaten up by AI? And I would argue that we're part of the hungry part of that, right? Like we're the ones, we have a little teeth in us because some of our customers have come to us and said, we have 20, 30 vendors banging down our door with AI scenarios that are point niche solutions that fix a specific problem. And I challenge those customers to say, you know what, of those 30 or 40 vendors, pick 2 of them that are really interesting to you. And let's see if we can do it with Qlik, because I bet we can. So, our customers light up when they see that because they're thinking, oh yeah, that's right. You guys have already moved the data. You guys have already helped us transform and clean that data, and I can use it. So as long as I can build my use case out with a Qlik app or with some of the agents that you saw this morning, I might be able to produce that capability on my own with my Qlik license. I don't have to buy another AI niche tool to solve a problem.
I mean, to me, that would make total sense. I think you're right. I mean, again, it's focusing on a platform that can help you up-level across multiple different use cases. And one of the things, again, that I've seen is really around the people who are managing it, and really just kind of the might that they have to go through, and the data. And I know there was the discussion of the different personas that were going to be able to take advantage of this. Do you see that organizations really are leaning into more automation around this, around the data quality, around the governance, because it's just so unknowable, a lot of the different pieces that you have to touch, that they're looking for partners like Qlik to come in and help them at all of these different points?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an area where I think agents will help, but it'll be more like agents as a helper, as opposed to like, automation or full action. Like take data stewardship, for example. Data stewardship, somebody has to look at a lot of these scenarios and say, what do we do with this? Like, this isn't right. Like, we need to make sure that this data is formulaic and follows this formula. So some things like that need to be done, but then you can build that into the agent. You can build that into the agent and have something like data quality remediation automated from that point forward. So it's kind of, we talk about human in the loop. It's almost like AI with a little bit of human oversight. So I think Mike talked about this. I have so many things that I wrote down which were great sound bites this morning, and I don't have my notebook out right now, but he said something about, he said something about, I can't remember it right now, but it was basically how the human drives the process.
Right.
And if you understand the process, you understand what you need to do, you give it the rules, you give it the guardrails, I think that's one of the things, and then you have build confidence around that, then you can have some automation that's then continually in motion. Doesn't mean you don't have to tweak it and change it now and then.
Right.
And in a true AI world, it would change itself and modify itself, but some of those things really help.
It's just a tool. AI is just a tool.
Yeah.
There you go.
Workload, yeah.
Right. Well, Matt Hayes, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really fun conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm Rebecca Knight for Rob Strechay. Stay tuned for more of theCUBE's live coverage of Qlik Connect. You're watching theCUBE, the leader in enterprise tech news and analysis.